The presentation is about during this workforce, how during this COVID, how do we handle our workforce? So we don't think, because this is a new reality to us, like tsunami in 2005. So that was a new reality, right? We never had experienced tsunami. We think that was the first tsunami that has hit Tamil Nadu, but that was not true. Same thing with pandemics. This is not the first pandemic that is hitting the world. There are quite a few pandemics. So look at the first pandemic that has been recorded in history, 1347 to 1351. 200 million people died of plague. And the whole population of the world at that point of time was 400 million. Today, our pandemic that we are experiencing is, we are somewhere here. About 550,000 people have died. So this has happened in 1817 to 1923, just to put things in context. So this was something which I had mentioned. We talk about physical health, right? We say wear a mask, social distancing, wash your hands frequently. All of that heals a person or protects a person physically. It does not protect a person mentally or emotionally, socially or spiritually. Look at your own team. I'm sure there are people who are physically okay, but mentally, emotionally really bothered about COVID. And there are a lot of challenges that they face. Not that they've got COVID, but just the thought of COVID, just the paranoid fear that comes that whether I will get COVID or not, creates an undue response in that individual. So one has to be very conscious as part of a leadership team of any organization, in this case Loyal. We have to take all this into account. It is not the physical disease of COVID. It's what COVID does to people in the other realms of healthcare. So what do we, as leaders, what is the interest of leaders? Leaders are building the right culture, increasing the capability of their people, improving the performance of their organization. This is what every leader would aspire to do. But here comes COVID, and it is a complete rethink on how to attain long-term sustainability. We are only talking about human resource, but there are other aspects, right? I mean, you'll have to make a business sustain, a business pay for itself, and you have to invest in technology, you have to invest in new facilities, you have to invest in training. So all that is today suspended. We are only talking about human resource to tide over this present crisis. Some of the industries are going to really struggle. I mean, if you look at a restaurant, if you really look at malls, they don't know when they will be able to come, or an airline industry. Complete. You look at something like an Indigo, high-flying airline, and suddenly they seem to be teetering on bankruptcy. But what COVID-19 has done is it has exacerbated pre-existing pressures on individuals, families, teams, the workforce, organizations, and society. We saw this in our own organization. I'm sure you're seeing this in your own organization. Some of the problems which were not very explicit suddenly becomes very explicit. You are able to, it's like an earthquake. The fissures were always there. Suddenly when a weak moment comes, everything pours out. Coming to leadership, COVID has really taught all of us, we are not dealing with robots or algorithms. We are dealing with people. People have wants, needs, problems, emotions, ideas, and aspiration. And the fear, the utter fear. What would happen if something happens to me? Who will take care of the family? But the leaders have a dual commitment, right? Leaders have to achieve the mission, but also the business outcome. How do you sustain the organization? Leaders have to look beyond COVID. Otherwise, you can't get caught in COVID and have the organization run down. So future of organization depends on that accountability and stewardship, looking and handling the situation today, but also preparing the organization for the future. Leaders must demonstrate care and concern and listen with reason and the organization ability, the adverse impact of such decision. It's very important to reflect on this. Sometimes during the COVID era, including our own organization, people in the emotional concern, they ask for everything. You will have to realize, if you are a 5,000 member team, will you be able to give everything to everybody? So you will have to draw the line. In our case, we said the testing, we will take you to the government facility, we will do the testing for you, we will help you. And with the accommodation and thing, we said, we will give you leave within the leave range, and then 15 days of extra leave if you get COVID positive. And we also specified a financial amount that we will give in case you get COVID, because we will have to think of the sustainability of the organization. You can't react when the first person gets COVID positive. Everybody will get COVID positive at some point of time or the other. We should just hope and pray that the people who are vulnerable should not get COVID. All the younger people, people who don't have comorbidities, this is something which is going to happen at some point of time or the other. The problem is this, right? We see these numbers every day, 20,000 people got COVID, 25,000 people got COVID. But look at the death toll, 1,400 people in Tamil Nadu. I'm giving you a statistics. Every day in Tamil Nadu, 7,000 people die. So I think this is literally blown beyond the proportion for various reasons. So it affects employees, it affects all of us. All of us, even for doctors, I get messages in our group which says, I'm frightened, I'm scared, they share some image. So the whole paranoia is kept fed again and again by by each one of us in different ways. So what are the current issues that you would face or we are facing? One is fear of getting infection. This is an utmost fear, right? And you hear from people have committed suicide when they have known that they have got COVID. I don't think COVID kills people to a large extent, hardly less than 0.7%, 0.6%. But just the name of COVID seems to bring such amount of terror, which is unnecessary. Loss of livelihood, that is more real. People don't have, imagine the autos and the taxis, Ola drivers, all of them don't have any livelihood whatsoever. That is worse than COVID for them. Sense of insecurity. It's interesting. In our case, all our cleaning staff have been coming more than necessary. Nobody is taking leave. The reason is the husbands are not working. They're not bringing in money. This is the only job that they have. So they don't want to absent themselves. They want to keep coming. And people are also anxious about physical distancing and social distancing. Phobia of going out of home. I'm sure some of your team members have an extreme phobia. Stigma towards people with symptoms. Nothing happens. They are not untouchable. They are one of you. I keep telling our team, what happens if your daughter, if your sister, if your mother gets COVID? You want people to behave the way that you are behaving today? You want to run away from them? You want to believe that by locking ourselves inside our house or inside our rooms, we can tide over this? So sometimes we have to be a little more sympathetic towards ourselves and empathy towards others to be able to handle this well. And also you see, right, a lot of people were hoarding stuff. America, toilet papers were not available. I mean, you don't even connect toilet papers with COVID, but people were so paranoid in that place. Fatigue, burnout, frustration, the fear of contracting or guilt of transmitting. So these are all the current issues that are going in all our minds in one form or the other. So I'm sure in your organization, you have come across all these people, and we have come across all these people in our organization. Person A, worried and irritated, always talking very negatively. There is a voidness in their mind and soul. Anytime you get a message from them, you realize they are scared. Some message which they say somebody has died somewhere, something has happened. And that's something which we find in an individual. There is another type of individual who has a serious psychological suffering, a breakdown. You didn't realize that they had it earlier, but this kind of brings it to the front, and which makes them a rebel. And in Tamil Nadu, 3.5 lakh people from Chennai went to their hometown. What did they do? Why did they go out of Chennai? Maybe Chennai is safer today. Going to Madurai and Coimbatore and Tirunelveli may not be the right thing to do because Chennai is a little ahead of curve. You're better off in Chennai. Doctors know how to handle COVID here. But still people, have that fear. I want to run away from this place to get away from here. And some people, burn down their houses. This is from a book, actually, these 6 characters. When they say burn down their houses, it's kind of, if you're an apartment complex, you're kind of shunning everybody. You don't want the maids, you don't want everybody. How long can you live like that? There is a time then you realize COVID is better than living like this. And there are people who act bold and act against pandemic. There are few people. And some people believe that pandemic as God's punishment for depravity, myth. And this is true. Chickenpox. We say, Amma potrukku, then they go to a temple and then they take care of it. So there is also a belief that it's God's punishment for depravity. And we also find the people like Sushant Rajput and other people committing suicide. Apparently, they look successful. They are well off. They don't seem to have any obvious problems. But there are also people who have deep fissures, and that's how they handle this situation. So, what is our employee facing today? More than the physical problem, they face psychological problem. They are challenges. They are not as resilient. The challenges that we found are, today, the first time when you get a COVID, people react differently. There is fear, there is an undue reaction. That kind of subsides in 48 hours to 72 hours. But what you will realize is sick people will start coming to work. The reason being, they can't stay without work. They need to feed their family. They need to take care of them. So we need to figure out how to do that. Many workers may become obsessed with cleanliness and safety practice. They may not want to get infected. They want to continue be an earning member of the family. Employees' well-being continue to decline. This is not the physical well-being. This is a psychological well-being. There's just the fear. I'm sure each one of you have experienced this fear, right? The first time somebody said in your office or in your factory, somebody has got COVID. So what? What would happen if somebody gets a COVID? Somebody gets a cold, somebody dies. Yes, somebody will die. You go on a road, there is an accident, somebody will die. So COVID is, I'm not trying to trivialize COVID, but I'm trying to put it in perspective. The reason I'm putting it in perspective is, please remember, the society has to come to your help when your family needs it. If we are all of us are part of the society. If each one of us behave in a very self-centered way, then when the need arises for us, there won't be anybody around us. And employees are also confronting their own vulnerabilities. Some are seeking help. Somebody might say, I am 57. I've already lived my life. I don't want to lose my life. I don't want to get it. I have my daughter to get married to. So these are genuine challenges. This is not COVID. Not that they are frightened, but they have the genuine concerns towards their family. So how do we assist these employees? How do we, like me talking to you all, right? So me talking to you all is, I'm not going to solve your problem on COVID or take care of your COVID, but I'm probably sharing a direction that is possible so that we are able to handle this situation in a much more dignified manner. What's happening with COVID is, I'm sure some of you are going through this. Some of you are reassessing your own career choices. We see this in our own doctors, people who have the wherewithal. People are asking this question, is this a life I want to live henceforth, a life well lived? Employees will be on a quest to be employed for the right company. This is a very important moment, right? How we handle COVID has deeper implications for the long term. As an employer, are you caring about them? So caring also has a boundary, right? You can't care. Caring has to also sustain the organization. You can't care to the extent that one can't sustain the organization. Social distancing brought individuals considerably closer. I'm sure in this last 4 months, you've all spent a lot of time within the family, with the family. And families are also not easy. Families are also difficult. People, we had an incident, I came to know about it. A lot of family issues which were handled much better. Imagine, this is a real incident. There was a wife who spent about every day talking to her mother, her father, her brothers for about an hour to 2 hours every day over phone. That's what kept her going. And in this case, the husband was at home. And the husband kept on asking, why are you spending so much time talking to your family? You're not taking care of me and my family. And he didn't realize that's what kept her grounded all these years. That was her lifeline. She kept connected. So when he took that off, she lost her balance. So she had to go through a treatment. So it's very important to realize all of us have patterns in our lives which we have built to cope with situations. So that coping mechanism has to be understood in each one of us and each one of our employees. And there are two things here I wanted to say. A lot of this luxury of changing jobs and all that is with a certain layer of employees. Maybe in Loyal, the top 20% of this organization may have that layer. In Arvind, we will have the top 20% or 15% doctors. They can go to another organization. They can choose not to work. But the other 80% of the people who get salaries, say under 20, 25, 30,000, they will have to work. Work is what keeps their house going. So that's a very different group, but they also look for how our leaders behaved during this crisis. Again, this is a question that comes. Faith and life gets questioned. Religious tendencies and spiritual beliefs. Some people get accentuated. They become more spiritual. For some people, it gets diminished. You get messages, right? Temples are closed. Hospitals are open. So these are different messages. And people say temple is not a physical structure. Temple is in your heart. So this is how people respond and react. And pandemic has made their situation very difficult because there are no funds available. You know, people also, a lot of times we turn to God when we are in a corner. So this is a corner situation. People don't have money, and people also don't have the peer support. You know, like each one of you, you would have had a lunch together, you would have had a cup of tea together, you would have laughed together. You would have even had a little talk about the other employee, complaining about the other employee together. All of this builds a bond in an organization. So all that is now not there because you're all physically distanced. So all of that translates into different kind of behaviors in each one of us. And those who are affected by pandemic, imagine if one of your employee has COVID, they will feel very difficult. They will feel very meaningless by the unsafe decision of others. They may feel, oh, I took care of everything. I didn't go out. I didn't do anything. It's my watchman who brought COVID to me. I went to the office. Somebody else gave the COVID to me. So it's blaming others. Very difficult to understand. What you can do is to wear a mask wherever you are outside. Wash your hands appropriately. All the precautions that the government says. These are the two precautions that will help you. Distance between one individual to the other. These three seem to have worked wonders in Japan, in Korea, in New Zealand. So that should work in India as well. Those who understand the disease will have little patience for those who appear to be unsympathetic to safety concerns. I'm sure you have one or two people in your team who behave as if COVID does not bother them. They may be young, they may be brash, they don't wear their masks properly. So, that will worry people who are a little older. That will worry people who have a father or mother at home who are 70 or 75 or 80 years of age. So, a lot of these things which we are unconscious about can be surfaced during these times. Financially insecure people will make impossible daily choices. That's something which I had explained to you with our cleaning staff. They don't have a choice but to come. Your security people, they will come. They will come day in and day out because that's what keeps the fire burning in their kitchen. And effective leadership honors the person as an individual, but also keeps the behavior within the boundaries. We had to tell some of our employees to take a long leave because they're very cynical. They're very negative about the whole situation. We said, it is good for you to be on your own, to handle yourself, gain control before you come and be part of this team. Imagine we are a hospital. We can't run away from COVID. We will have to handle patients. Somebody will get injury. Somebody can't see through their eyes. We have to be of support to them. We can't chase away our patients. We handle people, real people as customers. So we have to be ready to handle them. There is a higher risk. We are not in a factory. We are not doing. There is a higher risk, and that's what we have signed up to. And, this is another important thing that we saw. A lot of times in healthcare, maybe in your organization too, people take a lot of precautions at one level. Like in our case, doctors, nurses, in your case, maybe a certain level of staff. But we don't realize the cleaners, the housekeepers, and the security staff, the people who take care of your office, all of them are also part of this fight. So in our case, we said when we described them as frontline, we didn't say it was doctors and nurses. The entire team is frontline. Imagine if you're fighting a war. It's not the people who are fighting the war. It's people who are feeding the people who are fighting the war. It's people who are driving their vehicles for fighting the war. It's people who are building their weapons. So you need to be very conscious not to make one set of people very important and leave the other set of people high and dry. So that's something which we learned early on. This is a quote from Albert Camus. He is a philosopher, a French philosopher. This is very true for us. He talks about how to handle plague. If you ask me one message, if I want to give you, it's please behave with common decency. Please behave as if you will get COVID and you want the other person to treat you well. It's like the whole caste system all over again. Somebody becomes untouchable because they are COVID positive. Nothing will happen. So this is what he says. There is no question of heroism in all this. It is a matter of common decency. That's an idea which may make some people smile. But the only means of fighting a plague is common decency. I think with COVID too, that's very true. We all have to have common decency. That's very important. We can't shun an employee of ours or a fellow colleague because they have been exposed to a condition. I'm moving to post-pandemic, in the longer realm of what would happen. Prolonged recession of the economy, I think this is going to be a reality. Failure of organizations to properly recover. This is going to be a challenge for us. We are realizing many of our nurses are going back to their families. We don't know how many of their family members will get COVID, how many of them will come back. All of those are challenges for us. High level of unemployment, which are already seeing, exacerbation of mental health issues in the community, surge in inequality and social divisions. You're already seeing it, right? Apartments say, we don't want any maids coming in. We don't want anybody. We will lock the door. We will be in a locked community and we will tide over this. But then when you need the maid, when they don't come, what would happen? That's something which we saw in our own apartment complexes where we are. For a while it all worked well, 1 month, 2 months. After that, people got tired. People said, no, we need the maid, the kids we can't handle, we have online work, we are able to do this. So then suddenly it opened up. And one house opens up, the other house opens up, and then everything opened up. Anger with political leaders and distrust of government. Again, we keep saying, right? They're not doing adequate number of testing, there is no hospital bed, all of that. Healthcare becomes prohibitively expensive or ineffective. Very true, because 99% of the cases, there is nothing much to do in COVID. But it is expensive when you go to a private facility. Again, this is education and training systems, which we know what's the challenge that's going on. When the pandemic subsides, it will subside. Everything has subsided. As I showed you, this is not the first pandemic. The world has endured multiple pandemics, as you have seen. This will get sustained. You have to look beyond the situation. A strong sense of pride will flourish. Employees in high-risk jobs will warmly recall how they fought this war. It's like an old Kargil veteran speaks very highly. He remembers the valor in which they fought this war. Employees may understand and forgive those who, for good reason, they were not able to be part of this war. New bonds will be formed. I'm sure even in your own team, this COVID has brought people together in different ways. People who didn't communicate earlier have started communicating. And leaders need to be cognizant of the convergence of these dynamics. It's very interesting for us to understand how we are going to bring this team together. Please remember, fear is not going to unite us. Hope is going to unite us. Hope that we are custodians of, in our case, we are custodians of 5,200 people and their families. As leaders, we will have to look beyond our own insecurities and be conscious about how do we help them, how do we nurture them, how do we help them sail through this particular crisis. And I saw this in Loyal as well, your ability to make masks, your ability to make PPE. Suddenly, there was a sense of newfound energy. That was true with our organization too. A lot of innovations that came into existence. The challenge would be in the long term, how do you sustain these innovations? The people who are innovative may not be in the leadership position, but they were the ones who were driving it. But suddenly you will go back to the old world order. Their voice won't be heard to the leadership team. So those are all some of these challenges that one has to be understanding. How do you keep this ingenuity alive even after COVID goes? How do you remove these barriers and changing operating procedures and cultural dynamics so that people can voice their innovation and give a life to it? When the pandemic subsides, definitely there will be an accelerated performance. Employees will be even more anxious to demonstrate their capability and value, and they'll have a can-do spirit. But one thing will be true, they won't tolerate bureaucracies and styles of management that dismiss their value. This is very important, right? People have realized how vulnerable each one of us are. The higher in the hierarchy, we are more vulnerable. We are more worried, maybe due to age, maybe due to fear, maybe due to knowledge. So the employee has watched us, how insecure we are or how secure we are. There is no congruence between employee expectation of contribution of value. They will always feel compelled to seek a better work elsewhere. So this is something which we are cognizant. A doctor may feel Arvind Hospital is not the place where I want to spend the rest of my career. They did not stand by me when there was a crisis. Or they might feel Arvind stood by me during the crisis, and I would like my friend also to come and work here. So it may work both ways. And meaningful voices start emerging, sharing ideas, concerns. I'm sure you have a couple of people in your group who are sharing meaningful voices, who are reducing the fear, who are reducing the panic. And there are a few other voices who are fostering the panic, fostering the fear. And remote work, I mean, I'm sure some of you are working remotely, and that is all comfortable for people who can work remotely, but that's not possible for somebody who works with your machines. Somebody in our case, if I have to do a surgery, I can't work remotely. I'll have to be with the patient, taking care of all the precautions. Again, this is very important. And I think each one of us, are leaders in our own ways. Some people will report to us. Some people are looking at us. Employees want to trust their leaders. Without trust, they would think to depend on the organization and its leader in the next crisis. So always remember, that's something which we tell our team. Always remember, people are looking up to us. Imagine if you are fighting a war in the border of Pakistan or China. Death is real. For any one of the soldier, death is real. But how does the general behave? How does the soldier behave? They walk into it. They know that they can get killed. So somewhere in our hospital setting, unlike your place, we are pretty much in that moment, right? We can't shy away. This is what we have committed to. We need to face it in a very dignified way. Imagine if each one of the soldier ran away and got locked in his own house or own room. He says, I won't fight. I will have to save my family. I'll have to save myself. How does a country defend itself? That's the kind of message we give our team repeatedly, and it's a role modeling. If I have to speak the language, I will have to be in the hospital 24. I have to be accessible. I've never taken one day leave, not me. We are about 10 of us in this organization, not even one day. Consciously, we made it a point that we will be in the organization in the working hours completely and be accessible. Because it's very important to send a message that we are part of it. You can't have somebody like a general, you can't sit in your office and say, you go and fight. You will have to be part of the war. You don't have to go every day, but you will have to be part of that battle that they go through. To conclude, what we really need is a rallying message, a meaningful mission. I think this is important for Arvind. We are realizing our people mean a lot to us. We are about 5,200, as much as our patients, as much as what we do in eye care. Taking care of our employees, taking care of their families is as important a duty for each one of us during a time of crisis. Effective leadership cannot be delegated to a single person or a function. It's a collective responsibility of all leaders in the organization. That will cut across all organizations. It might be Loyal, it might be Arvind. A crisis brings out the best in many and worst in some. I'm sure you can look at yourself and ask what it has brought out for each one of you. Some will become better people for it, and some will take advantage of people. So that's how it is. There are people who have fissures, who are insecure. This will blow up their insecurity. Leaders will look back at after the crisis, maybe 2021, 22, we will look back at the crisis like what we did with tsunami, what we did with 9/11. Did we do the right things? Where could we have done better? Where were we completely wrong? Finally, leaders who offer hope and engage their employees as people, the multi-dimensional people that they are, will be best positioned to understand and address employees' thoughts and fears and aspiration. Mind you, you can't live with fear. We are all in a much more comfortable position than the people who are fighting it every day. How can a person who lives in a 250 square foot home think of social distancing? How can a person who lives in that 300, 400 square foot place? So we are all the privileged lot sitting where we are sitting. So we will have to be considerate. We will have to be humane. Our fears should not sacrifice people who have always worked for us. I would like to remind the quote from our founder: intelligence and capabilities are not enough. There must be a joy of doing something beautiful. You know, when you look at Mother Teresa, what do you remember? You remember her kindness. I think this is the time that each one of us have to realize that we will have to focus on the Mother Teresa in each one of us. We will have to focus on the joy of doing something beautiful, not think of only ourselves and our family, and not act all intelligence and capability. Use more of your heart as your leader, not as your head, is the message that we are taking within Aravind. And I hope that's a message that may resonate within Loyal as well. Thank you. With that, I'll conclude my presentation.